Welcome to a world where royal truths, hidden protocols, and European history come alive. This is your daily gateway into Princess Leonor's journey, the Spanish monarchy and royal dramas and real love stories. In today's video we dive into Love Across Time, a timeless romance between Princess Leonor and Prince Christian of Denmark. Stay till the end for full details. Like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle for more daily royal update. Love Across Time, timeless romance. Princess Leonor embraces love over power. The palace, the crown, the expectations. Everyone thought she'd follow the script. But what if the future Queen of Spain chose love over the throne itself? A forbidden heart, a choice that shook tradition. This is the story of Princess Leonor, Spain's most courageous royal, who dared to love when power demanded distance. From the moment she was born, Princess Leonor carried a destiny too heavy for most hearts. The firstborn of King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia, she was the heir, the symbol, the hope of a nation. Every smile, every step, every glance, watched, recorded, analyzed. Spain saw not a girl, but a monarch in the making. Yet, behind palace walls, the truth was different. She was still a daughter, still a young woman who dreamed of more than just duty. At 13, she stood before the world, swearing loyalty to her country. At 15, she trained in military discipline. At 18, she became the future queen in every sense. But in the quiet corners of her world, she found something unexpected. Love. It began in silence. In the gardens of Zarzuela Palace, where whispers of youth met the weight of history. A chance encounter with a young man whose world was far removed from royal titles and political diplomacy. His name, unknown to many, was whispered only among her closest circle. Not a prince, not a politician. Just someone who saw her, not her crown. For Leonor, it was both intoxicating and terrifying. He wasn't supposed to exist in her life. Their conversations stretched late into the night, filled with laughter, honesty, and a kind of freedom she never knew she craved. In his presence, she wasn't Her Royal Highness. She was simply Leonor. But in the palace, love was never simple. Every emotion had consequences, every choice, a price. When word of her attachment began to circulate, her advisors grew cautious. Her parents, understanding yet torn, knew the story of royals before her who sacrificed love for duty. They feared history would repeat. And yet, Leonor was different. She looked at the portraits of queens past, women who smiled in silence, who bowed to rules they never wrote, and she decided she would not be one of them. Spain expected obedience. Leonor offered authenticity. Her relationship tested the limits of royal control. Behind the grandeur of events, the military drills, the elegant smiles, she hid a story of defiance and devotion. Every public appearance became a mask. Every private letter, a rebellion. Love gave her courage. When she entered the Royal Military Academy, her duties increased. But even amid the strict routines and royal training, she found ways to keep the connection alive. Secret messages, hidden notes, a quiet promise. No matter how high the crown sits, the heart still beats beneath it. Those who knew her saw a change. She carried herself with a new strength, a calm defiance. Her speeches began to carry warmth instead of cold protocol. Her presence radiated humanity. The young woman who once represented tradition began to embody transformation. In interviews, she spoke subtly about values, compassion, and the importance of listening to one's heart. The public adored her even more, unaware that behind her composed words lay the echoes of a forbidden love story. But pressure mounted. The court could no longer ignore the rumors. Questions about her loyalty, to Spain, to her lineage, to her future, filled the air. Was love worth risking the monarchy's image? Could a queen to be truly love a man outside the royal circle? And still, Leonor's answer remained unshaken. Love was not her weakness. It was her strength. She believed that leadership without love was tyranny in disguise. That a queen who cannot love cannot lead. And so, she began to reshape her destiny, not in defiance of Spain, but in devotion to what it could become. The king and queen, though cautious, began to see the sincerity in their daughter's resolve. They remembered their own story, how Letizia, a commoner and journalist, had once defied royal expectations too. Slowly, quietly, they began to support her. Yet, the world was not so forgiving. International headlines speculated, royal analysts questioned, and across Europe, whispers of scandal echoed. But Leonor remained silent. She didn't need to defend herself. Her actions spoke louder than any rumor. In a world where power seduces and protocol suffocates, she chose to breathe freely. Years passed. Her love matured, unbroken by distance or duty. Every time she returned home, she found strength not in applause but in connection. That quiet understanding between two souls, untouched by politics or prestige. Spain saw their future queen grow into a symbol of a new kind of monarchy. Not cold, not mechanical, but deeply human. She became the face of a generation that values empathy over tradition, truth over perfection. And through it all, her love endured. There were moments of doubt, of tears, of long nights staring out over Madrid, wondering if love and power could ever coexist. But with each sunrise, she found her answer. Yes, they could, if one had the courage to redefine both. Leonor stood not just as heir to a crown, but as a reminder that even in the most gilded cages, the heart remains free. Her story was not a fairy tale, it was a revolution wrapped in tenderness. When she finally appeared at a state event with a calm, knowing smile, the cameras captured more than royal grace. They captured a young woman who had chosen love without surrendering destiny. A queen in waiting who dared to say, "I can serve my country and still love as a woman, not just as a monarch." And Spain listened, because in her, they saw hope, a bridge between the old and the new, between tradition and truth. Her romance was not about rebellion. It was about balance. About showing the world that power without love is empty, that crowns, without hearts, are meaningless. And when she spoke again before her people, her words echoed across generations. Love is not a distraction from duty, it is the force that gives duty meaning. A sentence that would define her reign. Princess Leonor, the girl who could have bowed to expectation, instead lifted her heart above it. She became the monarch Spain didn't expect, but the one it needed. Because she chose love, not over power, but through it. And in that choice, she became timeless. The future queen of Spain. The daughter who dared. The woman who loved. Love across time. A story that reminds us, even in the halls of power, love remains the greatest crown of all. In a world where every royal move is scripted and every smile rehearsed, two young hearts dared to feel something real. She, the future queen of Spain, bound by duty, grace, and destiny. He, the Danish prince, raised in tradition, yet unafraid to dream beyond borders. Their paths were never meant to cross, but fate had other plans. This is not a fairy tale. It's a story written in silence, in glances, in letters, a love the crowns couldn't contain. This is love in every word. If you find the video interesting, like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle more royal updates. Love in every word, Princess Leonor and Prince Christian meant to be. Royal duties, public eyes, a crown's weight. But beneath the diamonds and discipline, love found its way. Unexpected, forbidden, inevitable. Princess Leonor of Spain, Prince Christian of Denmark. Two worlds, one heartbeat. And from their first exchange of words, destiny began to whisper. It began quietly. A royal summit in Oslo, a gathering of Europe's young heirs. Cameras flashed, protocols dictated every step, but for a brief moment, eyes met where they shouldn't have. Leonor, composed, dignified, a future queen learning the art of silence. Christian, charming, curious, the kind of prince who smiled with his eyes. Their first words weren't scripted, yet they lingered longer than any speech that night. Observers saw a polite conversation. But those who looked closer saw something else, warmth. Genuine connection. In a world built on duty, their exchange felt human. The next morning, they were spotted laughing during the photo session. Not a royal giggle for the cameras, but real laughter, the kind that slips through walls built by generations. Months passed. Life went on. Leonor returned to Spain, back to her rigorous training at the Zaragoza Military Academy. Christian, in Denmark, continued his studies and public duties. But even separated by borders, something had changed. Royal insiders whispered that letters began to travel discreetly, words written carefully, sealed privately, delivered quietly. Love, in every word. What could they possibly write? Between two young royals, born into worlds of protocol, what language could love speak? Maybe they wrote about simple things, books, music, the smell of spring mornings after royal engagements. But perhaps, they also wrote about freedom. The kind neither of them truly had. Their connection deepened. Every event, every summit where both families appeared, carried a quiet tension. Glances exchanged across banquet tables. A brush of hands during greetings. Subtle, but undeniable. The Spanish press noticed. The Danish press followed. Rumors spread like wildfire. Is there more between the heirs of Spain and Denmark? Behind palace doors, concern grew. For King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia, Leonor's path was clear. She was Spain's future. Every choice she made, every person she befriended, was weighed against centuries of monarchy. And in Denmark, Queen Mary and Crown Prince Frederik saw their son's heart stirring in ways they hadn't planned for. Yet love doesn't seek permission. It simply happens. One evening, during the Earthshot Prize in London, fate gave them another meeting. Leonor, radiant in emerald silk. Christian, tall and poised beside his family. Cameras caught it, the subtle smile they shared, the softness in their eyes. For a moment, the crowd disappeared. The world saw duty. They saw destiny. Whispers grew louder. Are they the new royal couple of Europe? Could this be the union of two thrones? Some saw strategy, a powerful alliance of Iberia and Scandinavia. But for them, it wasn't politics. It was personal. Every time they met, they risked the scrutiny of nations, yet chose to see each other. Anyway, it was said that Leonor, during her private holidays, visited southern France, near the Danish royal summer estate. Coincidence? Perhaps. But witnesses recall quiet walks, minimal security, and laughter echoing under Mediterranean skies. Then came the moment that melted millions of hearts. During her 18th birthday address, when Leonor spoke of serving my people with heart and conviction, her voice trembled ever so slightly. Viewers noticed the pause, the glance downward, and Danish tabloids claimed Christian had sent her a handwritten note the night before. It read, simply, lead with heart. The world will follow. Love, in every word. But royalty is never just romance. Behind every smile lies sacrifice. Spain expected perfection. Denmark expected strength. And so, the relationship that bloomed in whispers had to survive in silence. Days of distance. Weeks without contact. Public events where they stood meters apart, forced to act as strangers. Still, fate kept weaving their paths together. The coronation of King Charles III. The state banquet in Madrid. The European Youth Forum in Copenhagen. Each time, a quiet spark, hidden in plain sight. And through it all, both matured, no longer just heirs, but young leaders shaped by love's quiet resilience. Letizia once said to a close friend, Leonor has her father's discipline, but her heart is her own. The Queen saw it, the glow that no crown could create. And in Denmark, Queen Mary reportedly smiled when asked about Christian's bond with the Spanish princess. He admires her, she said softly, and she makes him better. Years of friendship, devotion, and secret letters turned into something unbreakable. Yet they both knew, the world wasn't ready. Monarchies move slowly, guarded by tradition. But love, when pure, is patient. It waits through silence, through doubt, through distance. And so they built something few ever could, a royal romance without scandals, without rebellion, without breaking duty. Just two young hearts learning how to love within the boundaries of destiny. By 2025, their connection became undeniable. When Leonor attended the Earthshot Prize in Rio de Janeiro, and Christian stood beside the Danish delegation, the crowd roared as they shared a brief, tender moment, eyes meeting under the bright lights. Cameras captured it. The internet exploded. But beyond the headlines, there was something deeper: peace. Acceptance. The kind of understanding that says, no matter where we are, this is real. For Leonor, every speech now carried warmth. Every gesture, grace. Her confidence had deepened, because love had softened her edges. And for Christian, every appearance held maturity, the kind that comes from loving someone worth protecting. They are still young, still learning, still bound by thrones and flags. But somewhere between duty and desire, they've built a language only they understand. A love expressed not in rebellion, but in restraint. Not in grand gestures, but in subtle devotion. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't about escaping the crown, but wearing it together. And when history looks back, it may say that this was where Europe changed. Where two heirs, born to rule separately, found unity not through treaties or wars, but through love. Princess Leonor of Spain, Prince Christian of Denmark. Two destinies, one story, written not in ink, but in heartbeats. Whispered through letters, protected by silence, and sealed, forever, in every word. Forbidden power, Baron Trump and Princess Leonor. Love, diplomacy, and the future of two nations. A future queen, a rising political heir, two destinies, one impossible connection. What happens when love challenges the balance between America and Spain? The two worlds. In a world carved by legacy, diplomacy, and ancient crowns, two young figures rise into global attention. One is born into the oldest monarchy in Europe, the other into one of the most controversial political dynasties in the modern West. Today, we explore a scenario that captures imagination across continents. A scenario that blends love, power, and geopolitics. This is the story of Baron Trump and Princess Leonor of Spain. The future queen's birth. Leonor's rise. Leonor, Princess of Asturias, carries the full weight of Spain's future. Trained in military academies, prepared in languages, diplomacy, and protocol. Groomed for a throne shaped by centuries of war, peace, and political storms. Her path is measured, calculated, watched by millions, yet inside the palace walls, she remains a teenager discovering the world beyond her destiny. The political era rise. Baron Trump's world. Across the Atlantic, Baron Trump grows under a different spotlight. A world of media storms, political battles, and untamed influence. Tall, quiet, reserved. The only child of a former president. Though he avoids cameras, every step he takes echoes in headlines. Analysts speculate on his future. Politics, business, diplomacy. No matter the path, power follows him like a tide. How their paths cross. Their fictional first encounter. Our tale begins at a diplomatic conference in Europe. Leaders gather. Cameras swirl. Protocol tightens. Amid the ceremony, Baron and Leonor meet during a private youth delegation session. Two heirs. Two worlds. One unexpected spark. A quiet conversation about education, duty, and the pressure of legacy. A connection neither expected, yet both feel instantly. Moments of their private conversations. Digital diplomacy and young hearts. Their worlds do not allow public closeness. So their connection continues through messages. Shared frustrations. Small victories. Private thoughts about responsibility and freedom. Leonor speaks about military training. Baron about public judgment. Through coded words, they confide in each other, bridging the Atlantic more than diplomacy ever could. Now a political earthquake arises. If their relationship became public, what happens? Imagine the reaction. Spain, a future queen connected to America's most polarizing family. The United States, a political dynasty linked to an ancient European crown. Media frenzy erupts. Analysts debate alliances. Critics question motives. Diplomats whisper about new power structures. Because love between heirs is never just love. It becomes a global negotiation. Now comes the royal challenge. The pressure of crowns and legacy. Leonor's advisors warn her. Romance must never disrupt the crown. Spain's constitution demands neutrality. Her heart begs for freedom. Baron faces his own storm. A family tied to politics cannot afford emotional scandal. Their choices, though private, carry public consequences. Alternate futures. Three possible endings. The diplomatic alliance. A carefully structured relationship endorsed by both nations. A bond that softens political tensions. A future where personal affection becomes a symbol of United States-Spain cooperation. The forbidden romance. Public pressure grows. Leaders intervene. Advisors pull them apart. Their story becomes a quiet tragedy remembered in whispers across continents. The private path. They remain friends. Confidants bound by circumstance. Each choosing duty over desire. Their connection remains a secret chapter in the archives of history. Love isn't supposed to outlive life. It isn't supposed to cross the line between breath and silence. But Leonor and Christian made a promise that broke every royal rule, every expectation, every limit. A promise to love each other, even in death. And what came after that vow will shock you in ways no royal story ever has. Stay till the end for full update. Like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle for more daily royal update. Love lasts. Love fades. Love changes. That's what the world believes. But they're wrong. Because Leonor and Christian made a promise no royal vow had ever included. A promise whispered in secret, sealed with trembling hands, and meant to survive even death itself. And the outcome is nothing anyone could have imagined. The night that promise was made didn't begin with tragedy. It began with calm, soft winter air sweeping across Copenhagen. The hum of palace corridors settling into silence. Two young royals sitting close enough to feel each other's heartbeat. Future queen, future king consort. Two destinies intertwined in ways history would never fully capture. Christian noticed it first. The fear behind her smile. The exhaustion behind her poise. Leonor, glowing with grace, yet carrying a weight no 20-year-old should ever bear. Spain demanded perfection. Denmark demanded presence. And their marriage demanded strength. So he took her hand. Just that simple gesture. But her breath shifted. Her eyes softened. And the truth came out in a whisper she had been holding for months. What if, one day, duty takes me away from everything? From you. He didn't laugh. He didn't comfort. He understood. Because royalty isn't a fairy tale. Royalty is risk. Travel, training, ceremonies, exposure, pressure. All woven into a life where anything can change in a heartbeat. And so he made the promise. Quietly, fiercely, without hesitation. I'll love you beyond all of that. Beyond whatever comes. Even beyond death, if that's what it takes. Her tears were silent. But her answer was not. Then I promise the same. Even in death, I choose you. Two hearts. Two oaths. One forbidden vow, because kings and queens are not allowed to bind their souls. Only their duties. And that moment became the seed of everything that followed. You see, from the outside, their life looked perfect. Royal photographs. Diplomatic tours. Hand-in-hand walks through palace gardens. The world saw harmony. But harmony has shadows. And soon, those shadows revealed the first shock. Leonor's security briefing contained a list. A real, tangible list. Of threats, dangers, historical precedents. Every monarch receives it. But she was young, newly married, and the reality hit her with the force of a storm. She could lose everything. Not in fantasy, in reality. And this fear wrapped itself around their marriage like a quiet ghost. But Christian didn't let it haunt them alone. He attended meetings he didn't have to. He sat beside her through long Spanish council calls. He held her hand under the table when official voices grew heavy. And every night, when the palace fell silent, they returned to their promise. That their love would outlive whatever fate threw at them. This created the first curiosity loop. Why did the palace whisper that their bond was unusual? Why did advisors warn them their promise was too deep? Why did their families grow so cautious? Because power fears intimacy, especially the kind that can't be controlled. Queen Letizia sensed it first. She loved Christian as a son-in-law. Respectful, stable, protective. But she feared Leonor's emotional dependence. Not because it was wrong. But because it made her vulnerable. Felipe saw another angle. A love strong enough to overshadow protocol could one day challenge the monarchy itself. And in Denmark, Queen Margrethe held concern of her own. Christian's devotion, beautiful and rare, could one day conflict with Denmark's needs if Spain demanded more of Leonor. Two kingdoms, one marriage, a promise that terrified both sides. Yet, that promise also healed them. Because it gave Leonor something she had never truly had. Freedom inside her own heart. This leads to the next curiosity. What event pushed their vow from symbolic to necessary? It happened during a storm over the Gulf of Cadiz. Leonor was scheduled to visit a naval training ship as part of her preparation. Weather reports were stable, winds manageable, until they weren't. A sudden shift, a violent front, waves rising like steel walls. Communication lost. Spain panicked before Denmark even heard the news. Christian was in Amalienborg Palace when he received the call. He did not speak. He did not breathe, because in that instant, the promise they made, that impossible vow, became horrifyingly real. Hours of silence followed. Hours when he sat alone in their room, clutching her scarf, praying to anything that could hear him. Hours when the staff avoided eye contact because they saw the fear in his face. And then, a message. She was safe. Shaken, cold, but safe. When she returned, his arms wrapped around her before she could say a word. Her tears soaked his shoulder. His breath shook against her hair. And the next words she whispered changed the course of their marriage forever. Our promise wasn't foolish. It was truth. This moment did not weaken them. It forged them. But now the next curiosity emerged. What outcome would shock their families, their nations, and the world? It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't political. It wasn't tragic. It was something far more unexpected. Leonor began keeping a journal. Not of royal duties, not of public events, but of every moment she feared losing Christian. And every moment she realized she never truly could. Her love became something deeper. A force that no crown could limit. Christian, in turn, began drafting a private letter. Sealed, hidden, meant to be opened only if fate separated them. Not a goodbye, a continuation. Their families discovered these documents accidentally during a private archive inventory. And the outcome? Shock. Because never in the history of either monarchy had two heirs lived with such raw honesty, such spiritual devotion, such open acknowledgement that death, duty, and destiny could never sever them. It wasn't morbid. It wasn't unhealthy. It was human. Two young royals loving each other with a depth the world rarely sees. Two people understanding the fragility of life more clearly than most. Two souls choosing each other beyond ceremony, beyond politics, beyond mortality. And here is the final truth. Their promise to love each other even in death did not darken their story. It illuminated it. It made every moment sweeter, every touch warmer, every goodbye softer, every reunion sacred. It became their anchor, not their shadow. And the shocking outcome wasn't fear. It was strength. A love steady enough to withstand the weight of two nations. A love deep enough to silence gossip, doubt, and politics. A love mature enough to recognize that life is fragile, and therefore precious. Christian and Leonor didn't promise each other forever out of fear. They promised it out of clarity. A clarity that only true love grants. Not even death could break that. Because some bonds are born not from royalty, but from destiny. Welcome to a world where royal truths, hidden protocols, and European history come alive. This is your daily gateway into Princess Leonor's journey, the Spanish monarchy and royal dramas. In today's video we dive into a happily ever after love story of Princess Leonor who marries her Prince Charming. Stay till the end for full details. Like and subscribe for more daily royal update. Happily ever after begins with a quiet expectation. A princess preparing for duty. A kingdom watching. A destiny unfolding. Then something shatters the familiar. Something no one predicted. Love arrives where protocol once ruled. And the story everyone assumed would follow changes. Because this time, the future Queen of Spain chooses her heart, not the script written for her. This is the moment Princess Leonor marries her Prince Charming. Not the fairy tale from picture books, but the living, breathing love story that reshaped the House of Bourbon, the corridors of Zarzuela, and the expectations of a nation. A wedding whispered about for years. A romance doubted, questioned, analyzed. And yet, here it stands. Unshakable, unfolding before millions, the beginning of their forever. Everything begins long before the aisle. Leonor had grown up under the high ceilings of duty. Each step measured, each word weighted, each gesture recorded by a country that saw her as its future. But behind the titles and the ceremonies, she was a young woman learning how to carry a crown while searching for someone who could see her beyond it. Someone who didn't bow to the heir, but spoke to the girl. Their meeting wasn't staged by diplomats or royal councils. It wasn't arranged through tradition or convenience. It happened in the quiet spaces where real life hides. Far from cameras. Far from headlines. In the unexpected crossing of two worlds that should never have touched, yet somehow did. He wasn't born in a palace. He didn't belong to a dynasty. His last name didn't carry centuries of history. But his presence unsettled the carefully managed expectations around Leonor. He was calm where the world demanded perfection, steady where pressure mounted, and for the first time, she felt seen, not evaluated. That connection sparked whispers. Whispers grew into speculation, and speculation hardened into criticism. The palace remained silent. Leonor did not. Not publicly, but within herself. She chose to protect the story unfolding between them. A story too fragile for headlines. Too sacred for the noise of public opinion. While Spain debated, she built a quiet love that would eventually move nations. Curiosity builds here. How does a royal romance survive scrutiny? How does a future queen defend her heart without losing the respect of her people? What no one knew then was that the royal family itself was divided. Some believed in tradition, others believed in Leonor's judgment. Queen Letizia recognized the expression in her daughter's eyes. A mirror of her own past, a battle she once fought, and won. King Felipe carried the weight of heritage, yet he also saw the strength in his daughter's choices. He knew she could not lead a country if she could not first lead her own life. Still, doubts lingered, advisors whispered, protocol experts warned, and yet the relationship kept growing. Strong, steady, unshakable. Each obstacle became another tie between them. Each challenge became a stitch in the fabric of their future. And then the turning point arrived. After years of speculation, tension, and quiet support inside the family, Felipe and Letizia invited him to Zarzuela. Not as a guest, not as a curiosity, but as someone their daughter might one day stand beside as queen. That meeting didn't leak. There were no photographs. But it changed everything. Respect formed. Understanding grew. And for the first time, Leonor's path to the throne aligned with her path to happiness. A new curiosity rises. How does a royal engagement begin when nothing about the couple's relationship followed the expected script? There was no dramatic public proposal. No staged photoshoot. No glittering announcement in front of cameras. It began with a private moment. A conversation about future responsibilities. A promise to face the weight of the crown together. A question asked quietly. A yes whispered through tears. A beginning that felt human, not ceremonial. When the announcement finally reached Spain, the world froze. Headlines erupted. Critics reconsidered. Supporters celebrated. And the royal household released a single statement, crafted with precision and warmth. It spoke of love, respect, and a future Leonor was ready to embrace. The nation felt the shift. This wasn't a fairy tale fantasy. It was a grounded, mature love story rooted in the realities of royal life. Preparations began with a blend of tradition and personal choice. The wedding would not be extravagant for extravagance's sake. It would be elegant, meaningful, and deeply Spanish, infused with Leonor's values and the quiet simplicity of the man she had chosen. Europe's royal families circled the date. The Spanish people marked their calendars. And the world wondered how the heir to one of the oldest thrones on the continent would walk into marriage. Curiosity deepens again. What would the wedding day look like? How would the tension between royalty and modernity resolve? What emotions would reveal themselves when the cameras finally rolled? The morning of the wedding arrived wrapped in soft light. Spain woke early. Streets filled. Flags lifted. Madrileños crowded near the cathedral hours before the first carriage appeared. The air carried a sense of history, but also something gentler, hope. The hope of a future queen who understood her people because she built her life with authenticity. Inside the palace, Leonor dressed in silence. Not the silence of nerves, but the silence of realization. Every step of her journey had led to this room. Her gown blended royal tradition with modern grace, the fabric carrying embroidery inspired by the women who shaped Spain's monarchy. Queen Letizia adjusted the final details. Felipe watched from a respectful distance, pride glimmering beneath his composed exterior. Her sister Sofia hugged her with the joy only siblings understand. Then the moment arrived. Leonor stepped into the corridor. Guards straightened. Advisors paused. Every eye softened. She wasn't simply the princess of Asturias anymore. She was a bride walking toward the life she had chosen. The cathedral doors opened to a sea of faces and emotion. Spain rose to its feet. Cameras flashed. Bells rang across Madrid. And at the end of the aisle stood the man who had weathered scrutiny, criticism, and the silent weight of monarchy for her. He looked at her as if the world had narrowed to a single point. A look unbothered by titles. A look that anchored her. Their vows were simple, deep, honest. The words carried the weight of responsibility and the warmth of real affection. When they sealed their promises, the cathedral erupted into applause. Not polite applause. Applause that rumbled like a heartbeat across the country. They stepped out as husband and wife. Spain celebrated. Europe watched. And the world realized that this love story had become more than romance. It had become a new chapter for a monarchy stepping into its future. Their carriage rolled through Madrid. Children waved Spanish flags. Elderly couples cried softly. Friends of the groom looked stunned by the magnitude of the moment. And Leonor held his hand tightly, knowing the life ahead would test them, lift them, strengthen them. But they were ready. Curiosity loops continue. What comes next for a couple destined not only for a life together but for a throne? How does love survive royal duty? How does responsibility coexist with intimacy? Their journey is just beginning. They settle into married life with a balance of duty and tenderness. They create small routines that anchor them. Late-night conversations after state dinners, quiet coffees before public engagements, laughter shared between protocol briefings. He supports her training with diplomacy. She supports his adjustment to public life. Their partnership becomes a powerful symbol for Spain's future. Family dynamics shift. Sofia becomes not just a sister but a trusted confidant. Letizia guides Leonor through the delicate art of being both sovereign and wife. Felipe shares the wisdom earned through years of leadership. And in-laws are introduced to a world of protocol, security, and tradition they never imagined. The public slowly embraces the new consort. Not because of a noble birthright, but because of humility, grace, and sincerity. Spain begins to see what Leonor saw, a man strong enough to stand beside a queen without overshadowing her. Years will unfold, challenges will appear, but the foundation they built will hold. Because this isn't the fantasy ending from childhood stories. It's the earned, lived, resilient kind of happily ever after. The kind created through loyalty, respect, and the courage to choose love over expectation. Leonor marries her Prince Charming. And they live happily after. Not because fate decided it, but because they wrote their story with intention, heart, and truth. The future of Spain begins with this love. The crown will rest on two steady shoulders. And their happily ever after becomes more than a moment. It becomes a legacy. 48 hours. That's all that stands between Spain and a royal moment no one saw coming. A moment wrapped in secrecy, tension, and emotion. A moment that places Princess Leonor directly in the global spotlight. And as the countdown begins, one thing is certain: what's about to happen will change everything. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle for more daily royal update. Everyone thinks they know what's coming. A routine appearance. A polished princess. Another elegant moment for Spain's future queen. But no, something has shifted. Quietly, suddenly, dramatically. And in 48 hours, the world will see a side of Princess Leonor no one expected. A choice no one predicted. A moment that could redefine the Spanish monarchy itself. For months, royal watchers believed this upcoming event would follow the usual pattern: ceremony, duty, grace. But beneath the calm surface of Zarzuela Palace, preparations have taken a different tone. There is urgency, there is emotion, and there are whispers that this moment will test not just Leonor's training, but her heart. At 18, Leonor is already carrying responsibilities that most adults never face. She has navigated speeches, state commitments, military training, and the immense pressure of a future crown. Yet this particular event, this one happening in 48 hours, feels heavier. More personal. And those closest to her can sense it. Why? Because this event isn't simply another royal duty. It's a crossroads. The palace corridors buzz quietly with staff adjusting plans at the last minute. Advisors move with practiced calm, though their eyes reveal something more: anticipation mixed with tension. Even Queen Letizia has been unusually reflective, watching her daughter with both pride and concern. She sees the weight Leonor carries. She sees the decisions forming behind her daughter's serene expression. And she knows, every queen before her has faced a defining moment. This one may be Leonor's. Leonor herself tries to maintain her steady composure. But at night, in the privacy of her room, she rehearses her lines, not because she doesn't know them, but because she understands the significance. This event symbolizes the transition from prepared heiress to acting leader. The world will be watching not just what she says, but what she reveals. As dawn rises over Madrid, Leonor begins her day earlier than usual. Her schedule is carefully structured, but something in her pace is different. She is almost too quiet. Focused. Determined. She reviews briefing documents, notes from advisors, even historical records of past heirs who faced similar milestones. She wants to be perfect. But perfection isn't what this moment demands. Authenticity is. And authenticity requires courage. Meanwhile, inside the palace, King Felipe observes his daughter from a distance. He recognizes the familiar resolve, the same determination he once had before his own defining moments. And though he tries to remain neutral, fatherly pride betrays him. He knows Leonor is ready. Yet he also knows that readiness doesn't remove fear. As the hours pass, curiosity grows across Spain. Journalists, royal analysts, and global audiences begin speculating. Why this sudden secrecy? Why are security protocols being reinforced? Why are palace spokespeople refusing to comment? Every question answered creates another one. Every clue sparks more intrigue. Leonor's upcoming appearance is being described as historic, unexpected, potentially transformative. But no one knows why. Not fully. Not yet. Only the palace does. And they are guarding the truth with careful silence. By the next morning, the tension is palpable. Social media bursts with theories. Some insist Leonor is preparing to deliver a message that will surprise the entire nation. Others claim this may involve a shift in her future responsibilities. A few even whisper that emotion, deep, heartfelt emotion, will be at the core of her message. And perhaps, they're not wrong. Back inside Zarzuela, Queen Letizia asks her daughter a simple question. Are you certain this is what you want to do? Leonor's answer is steady. Yes. Not a forced yes. Not an uncertain yes. A strong one. This moment matters to her. Personally, emotionally, historically. The hours continue ticking down. Leonor meets privately with King Felipe. Their conversation is quiet, almost solemn. No cameras. No advisors. Just a father and his daughter, the king and his future queen. Witnesses say their discussion lasted longer than expected. And when Leonor emerged, her eyes carried something deeper, clarity. This is her path, her voice, her moment. As preparations intensify, the palace staff finalizes every detail, the hall layout, the lighting, the ceremonial protocols, the security choreography. Everything must be perfect, not for appearance, but because this moment could resonate far beyond Spain. Night falls again, now only 24 hours remain. Leonor retreats briefly to the palace gardens, where she often goes when she needs grounding. The gentle autumn breeze brushes against her face, the same breeze that carried her childhood laughter through these grounds. She closes her eyes and remembers the stories her parents told her, the duty to serve, the responsibility to lead, the privilege of representing an entire nation. But she also remembers her own dreams, her own hopes, the life she wishes to build. This event, happening so soon, bridges those two worlds. Morning arrives once more. Now less than a day remains. Spain awakes buzzing with anticipation. News outlets run constant coverage, counting down the hours. Analysts revisit Leonor's past speeches, searching for hints about what she might reveal. Supporters express admiration. Critics express doubt. But all agree, something important is coming. Leonor, meanwhile, begins her final preparations. Her outfit is carefully selected, symbolic, elegant, subtly powerful. Her speech, memorized, but still carried in her hand, is revised one last time. She removes a sentence, adds another, adjusts the tone. Every word matters. Queen Letizia watches from the doorway, her eyes soft. She understands the weight Leonor carries. She understands the sacrifices. And she knows her daughter is stepping into a new level of visibility, responsibility, and emotional exposure. Soon, King Felipe arrives to escort Leonor to her final briefing. They walk side by side, equal steps, equal height, equal presence. The symbolism is not lost on anyone who sees them. Spain's present, Spain's future. Together, the palace spokesperson prepares to address the media, but refuses to spoil the moment. The official statement is brief. Her Royal Highness will make an appearance of significant importance. Details will be provided at the event. No elaboration, no explanation, just mystery. And mystery fuels the world's anticipation. The hours grow shorter. 14, 10, 7. Each hour adds another layer of emotion, another wave of speculation. As night settles once again, Leonor sits alone in her room. The same room where she has spent countless nights studying, preparing, dreaming. She takes a breath, then another. She knows the magnitude of what awaits her. She knows the eyes of the world will be on her. And yet, she feels ready. Ready not because she is fearless, but because she has chosen courage over fear. In 48 hours, a moment arrives that will reveal her heart, her direction, her identity as the future Queen of Spain. A moment that promises to surprise, to move, to define. And when she finally steps out before the cameras, when she speaks the words she has held close to her chest, the world will understand why this event was guarded so carefully. Why it carries so much weight. Why it matters. Because this moment isn't just about duty. It's about destiny. It's about growth. It's about emotion. It's about the young woman who will one day shape a nation. And in just hours, she will show the world exactly who she is becoming. At exactly 1 p.m., everything changed. A moment no one noticed. A moment hidden behind royal protocol, cameras, and perfect smiles. But for Princess Leonor and Prince Christian, it was the beginning of something powerful, forbidden, and unforgettable. And once you hear what happened at that exact minute, you'll never see their story the same way again. Like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle for more daily royal update. Love looks predictable. Love follows patterns. Love arrives when we expect it. That's what everyone believes. But they're wrong. Because at exactly 1 p.m., in a quiet royal courtyard hidden from the world, one single moment shattered every assumption about Princess Leonor and Prince Christian. A moment so delicate, so powerful, so unexpected. It changed everything. And the truth behind that moment is nothing like the world has been told. It began on a warm afternoon, sunlight pouring through the old Danish palace windows like soft gold. Leonor had just finished a private briefing, the kind filled with diplomacy, security notes, and the unspoken pressure of her future crown. She walked through the hall with her usual grace, but her mind was heavy, her heart unsettled. Spain wanted perfection. Denmark wanted stability. And somewhere between the two nations, she was trying to remember what it felt like to simply be human. Christian noticed it long before she said anything. He had watched her move differently that morning, more quietly, more slowly, as if carrying an invisible weight. He knew her well enough to see the shift no one else could. And at exactly 12:57 p.m., he made a decision that would change both their lives. He stepped out of a scheduled meeting, ignoring the startled looks of his advisors, and walked toward the courtyard where the sun always fell just right. Because he knew, by intuition, by instinct, by love, that she needed him. Leonor arrived there at precisely 1 o'clock. She wasn't meeting anyone. She wasn't supposed to be there. She simply needed air, just a breath away from duty. But she wasn't alone. Christian stood waiting, his expression soft, his posture calm, as if he'd been expecting her all day. Her surprise flickered in her eyes. But what happened next? That was the real secret. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't pry. He simply held out his hand. For a future queen raised in discipline, perfection, and silence, that small gesture broke something open inside her. She placed her hand in his, slowly, uncertain, trembling. And the world seemed to still around them. This was the moment. The royal moment no one saw. The moment that changed everything. Leonor's voice cracked before the words even formed. Christian, I don't know if I can do all of this. Not the crown, not the marriage, not the expectation of being two things at once. A Spanish monarch in training, and a Danish royal by love. He didn't react with shock or disappointment. He stepped closer. He cupped her face gently between his hands. And he whispered, "You don't have to do it alone." This wasn't sweet reassurance. This wasn't romantic theatrics. This was truth. Truth powerful enough to tear down months of silent fear. But that wasn't the moment that changed their relationship. Not yet. The world-changing moment came seconds later, when Christian revealed something he had never told anyone, not even his own family. "There's something you don't know," he whispered. "My role in Denmark, it's changing. Because of you." Leonor froze. Because that sentence carried consequences. Real ones. Political ones. Personal ones. He explained it quietly, carefully. For months, the Danish council had been debating how Christian's position should evolve now that he was married to a future monarch of another nation. Some believed he should remain fully tied to Denmark. Others believed he should divide his time between two countries. And a few feared something far more complicated. That one day, Christian's loyalty might be pulled not by politics, but by love. Leonor listened, heart pounding. She had always feared that her crown might one day become a burden on him. But she never imagined that councils and advisors were debating the identity of her husband behind closed doors. Christian pressed her hands against his chest, letting her feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I need you to understand something," he said softly. "My identity is not a title. It is not a position. It is not a document. It is not a country's fear." He leaned closer. "My identity is the man who chooses you. Every day." Her breath caught. Her eyes softened. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, she felt safe. This was the deeper secret. The one no camera captured. No advisor documented. No palace ever intended to reveal. Christian had already made his decision long before that afternoon. A decision rooted in quiet determination. He would reshape his royal role around his marriage. Not the other way around. He would support her throne, her identity, her destiny, her future, not because duty demanded it, but because love guided it. And that moment, that exact moment, at exactly 1 p.m., became the turning point in their marriage, their future, and the relationship between Spain and Denmark. But why? What happened after? The first curiosity loop begins here. Leonor, empowered by Christian's confession, finally spoke a truth she had been hiding. "Sometimes I feel like Spain wants me more than they want us." Those words hit him deeply. He had been raised in a stable, peaceful monarchy. He never imagined how heavy an heir's training could be. The scrutiny, the pressure, the expectations that wrapped around Leonor like invisible chains. He didn't just comfort her. He made another vow, one he had never planned to say aloud. "I will protect our marriage from becoming a political possession." This promise would lead them into conflict with advisors, councils, and at times even their own families. Because neither monarchy ever expected two heirs to build a love strong enough to challenge outdated rules. But that afternoon, under warm sunlight, they didn't know where their promises would lead. They only knew this: they were stronger together. And then something even more unexpected happened. Christian pulled a small folded note from his jacket pocket. He had been carrying it for weeks, unsure when or how to show it to her. But here, in this quiet courtyard, surrounded only by the soft echo of birds and wind, he finally opened it. Inside was a hand-drawn diagram. A future. A plan. A life mapped between two countries. Denmark on the left. Spain on the right. A shared center marked only with her initials and his. Leonor's breath shook. Her lips parted. She couldn't speak. "Whatever crowns expect," Christian said softly, "I want our home to be this. A place between worlds, built by us, not forced on us." This wasn't symbolism. This wasn't fantasy. This was preparation. The preparation of a husband who understood the complexity of marrying a sovereign in training. But that diagram held something else. Something Leonor didn't notice until she looked closer. A tiny note written at the top. "We choose our story." This single sentence became the foundation of their future. A future that would soon be tested. Because what happened after this moment shocked both royal families. When Leonor, later that day, returned to her duties, her entire posture had changed. Shoulders lifted, eyes alive, voice steady. Something warmed inside her. Something awakened. Something undeniable. The Spanish council noticed. Queen Letizia noticed. So did Felipe. The entire palace saw a shift they could not identify. What they didn't know was that their daughter had finally found a space where she could breathe, not as a queen in training, but as a woman loved beyond her title. The next curiosity loop begins here. Word reached Denmark that Leonor and Christian had shared a long private moment. Not the details, never the details. But the advisors sensed a deepening bond. And that bond made them nervous. What if Christian changed? What if marriage shifted his priorities? What if his devotion to Leonor redirected his future responsibilities? These whispers grew louder in Danish political circles. Some even argued Christian should step back from certain duties until the councils clarified his long-term role. But when confronted, Christian surprised everyone. He stood tall. He spoke clearly. My commitment to Leonor strengthens my commitment to Denmark, not the opposite. This declaration stunned the room. Because it revealed something no advisor had considered. Love had made him more responsible, more focused, more grounded, more prepared for the future. Meanwhile, Leonor felt a similar transformation in Spain. During her weekly briefings, she showed confidence that felt deeper. Not rehearsed, not pressured, but organic. Her answers grew sharper. Her strategic understanding deepened. Her emotional resilience strengthened. And her parents noticed. Felipe asked her privately, "What changed?" She smiled gently, "Everything." But she didn't name Christian. She didn't need to. Love had made her stronger. Not softer, not distracted, stronger. And this strength would soon lead to the most shocking outcome of all. Not a scandal, not a crisis, not a political breakdown, a proposal, not a marriage proposal. They were already married. This was different. A proposal to rewrite a centuries-old understanding between two monarchies. Christian suggested that when Leonor ascends the Spanish throne, he should maintain a dual cultural role. Not a dual monarchy, but a dual presence, representing unity between Denmark and Spain. Leonor supported it privately. Felipe listened carefully. Letizia asked questions. The Danish council debated endlessly. And then, against all expectations, both royal families agreed, because they saw something undeniable. This marriage wasn't a burden. It was a bridge, a modern, living symbol of unity, that neither country could afford to underestimate. And it all began at exactly 1 o'clock in a sunlit courtyard. A place where love broke protocol. Where truth softened fear. Where two destinies intertwined without permission. A moment that lasted minutes. But changed a future that would last decades. The world never saw it. No camera recorded it. No advisor scripted it. No historian documented it. But that one private moment became the quiet heartbeat of a new royal era. An era defined not by arranged duty, but by chosen devotion. Leonor and Christian walked out of that courtyard as the same people who walked in. Yet completely transformed. Because at 1 p.m., they didn't just share a moment. They made a decision that would rewrite how two nations understood love, duty, partnership, and destiny. The secret moment that changed them forever wasn't dramatic, wasn't loud, wasn't ceremonial. It was human. Real, soft, yet powerful enough to shift the future. And this is the truth the world never saw. Great royal stories are not shaped in public. They're born in quiet spaces. In whispered confessions. In stolen moments of honesty. In promises spoken softly under the weight of history. Love at 1 p.m. wasn't an accident. It was destiny choosing the perfect moment. To remind them who they were, and who they were meant to become. A kingdom of old traditions. A crown forged in duty. A girl raised to one day become queen. And a secret she was never meant to carry. Everyone thinks they know how a princess lives. Perfect days. Perfect rules. Perfect expectations. But what if that image is a lie? What if behind the palace walls, the future queen kept a love so forbidden, so fragile, so dangerous, that Spain itself worked to bury it? Because this affair did not weaken her. It changed her. And the truth begins now. The story opens on a quiet morning in the royal palace of Oriente, where sunlight spills through the tall windows, warming the marble floors. Court staff move with the silence of people who know they serve history. And somewhere in the East Wing, behind one locked door, a young princess sits with a letter in her hands. A letter she has read 100 times but still cannot let go of. It is the only physical trace of the boy she once loved. The one she was forbidden to see. The one who taught her what freedom felt like. From the moment she turned 16, the burden of destiny fell heavily on her shoulders. Tutors trained her in diplomacy, media discipline, constitutional law. Her mother taught her poise. Her father taught her strength. But no one taught her how to be a girl with a heart that beat faster for someone who did not belong to her world. And that is where the first curiosity begins. Who was he? How did they meet? And how did a future queen fall in love with a boy who threatened the balance of an entire monarchy? It began far from the palace, during a private military training retreat. There, stripped of ceremony, titles, and royal formality, she was simply Leonor. And one evening, after a long day of drills, she saw him. A young soldier in training from a modest family. Calm eyes, steady hands, a presence that made the noise in her world suddenly quiet. Their conversations began as simple exchange. Discipline, duty, life. But then curiosity deepened into connection, and connection slipped into affection. Their first secret happened without planning. A shared walk in the dusk. A laugh she couldn't suppress. A moment of honesty that felt like stepping into the light after years in the dark. And from there, the forbidden began to grow. Each dawn brought them together. Each night pulled them apart. Yet the palace would never tolerate such a bond. A future queen could not love freely. Her heart was not her own. It belonged to Spain. Still, she kept him close. Hidden, protected. But secrets inside a palace do not stay quiet for long. One day, a royal advisor noticed the change in her. A softness in her gaze. A warmth in her voice. And suspicion began. That suspicion opened the second curiosity loop. How did the advisors uncover the truth? Who revealed the secret? And what did the palace do once they realized the princess's heart belonged to someone outside royal lineage? It happened during an unplanned visit. An advisor observed the soldier pass her a small folded note. It seemed innocent, but her smile was not. The palace machinery activated instantly. Discreet surveillance, quiet questioning, sudden changes to her schedule. She understood the message without needing words. Her love was no longer hers to protect. The monarchy had taken notice, and the price was coming. The first confrontation came from her mother. Not in anger, but in fear. Fear of scandal. Fear of instability. Fear of losing the girl she raised to the weight of the crown. Her father was different. Stern, cold, bound by obligation. He saw the affair not as love, but as risk. And risk was not permitted for the heir to the throne. The soldier was transferred to another region within a week. No explanation. No goodbye. No final moment. Only silence. For the princess, the silence became a storm. And this opens the third curiosity. Did she give up? Did she fight? Or did she find a way to hold on to him, even while the world tried to tear them apart? She fought quietly. She wrote to him. Letters that never reached him. She sent messages that remained unread. She asked advisors for clarity, only to be met with polished lies. The palace had built a wall between them. A wall she could not break. Months passed, and she learned something heartbreaking. The soldier, pressured by royal officials, had resigned from training and disappeared from public record. Not because he wanted to, but because he was told that if he continued, he would damage her future. And he loved her enough to leave. But then comes the fourth curiosity. Did the story end there? Or did fate have a different plan? Fate, as always, works in silence. Years later, during a royal event, the princess stepped onto a balcony. Below her, among the crowd, she saw him. Not in uniform, not in the shadows, standing tall, changed by time, but unmistakably him. He looked up. She froze. And for one suspended moment, the monarchy, the cameras, the weight of her destiny disappeared. Only the two of them existed. Their eyes met, and everything they had buried resurfaced. But the moment shattered quickly. A guard approached her. The crowd shifted. And when she looked back, he was gone. This moment reignites the next curiosity. Did she chase the past? Did she confront those who took him away? Or did she accept that love and duty would forever war inside her? She did what a future queen would do. She used her voice, carefully, strategically. She demanded more autonomy in her personal life. She requested time away from official engagements. She stepped into adulthood with a quieter rebellion, building small spaces of freedom inside the structure designed to control her. But destiny remained unmovable. She could not marry freely. She could not pursue the life of her heart. The crown demanded sacrifice, and she understood what every royal heir eventually learns. Love is the first thing the throne takes from you. Yet even now, she keeps one memory alive. A secret place she visits sometimes, a hidden garden behind the palace. Beneath an old tree stands a stone bench. Carved faintly into its surface are two initials. Hers, and his. The only trace of a love that almost was. And that brings us to the final curiosity. Did she truly lose him forever? Or is their story still unfolding in the shadows of a monarchy that guards its secrets more tightly than its crown? No one knows. Not even the palace insiders. Because some secrets, the most human ones, the most fragile ones, live only in the heart of the princess who was born to rule, but never allowed to love freely. And perhaps that is the greatest truth of all. A princess can be destined for a throne, yet still haunted by the one person she was never allowed to keep. If you want, I can expand this into a full cinematic sequel, a part 2, or a parallel story from the soldier's perspective. In a world where crowns are inherited, but destinies are earned, one young royal stands at the center of Spain's deepest hopes and most guarded whispers. Her presence inspires loyalty, her grace commands attention, and her heart remains the nation's most delicate mystery. Tonight, we step inside the quiet corridors of power, tradition, and emotion, where the truth is rarely spoken aloud. This is the story the palace will never tell you, but one the world is desperate to understand. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Future Queen Chronicle for more daily royal update. Stay till the end for full details. Everyone thinks they know Princess Leonor's life. The royal routines, the polished appearances, the perfect composure. But they don't know this. Not the part Spain never speaks about. Because behind the crown, behind the discipline, behind the future monarch, is a heart Spain protects more fiercely than anything else. And the truth about her love life is nothing like the public imagines. For years, Spain has watched Princess Leonor grow from a shy young girl into a confident, poised, and determined future queen. Every step of her journey has been carefully documented, every gesture analyzed, every word preserved. Yet one part of her life remains wrapped in silence, protected by the palace, shielded by her parents, and hidden behind the calm expressions she shows the world. Not because it's scandalous, not because it's dramatic, but because it's human, fragile, and deeply personal. This is the part Spain guards the most, the emotional world of their future monarch. The truth is, long before her public responsibilities intensified, Leonor began feeling what every young adult eventually feels: connection, affection, curiosity. But unlike her peers, she could never experience it freely. Every interaction carried weight. Every friendship was scrutinized. Every moment of closeness could turn into a headline. So she learned early, if something touched her heart, she had to protect it. The first curiosity loop opens here. Was there someone? Did she care for anyone? And if she did, how did she keep it hidden from a world always watching? Inside Zarzuela Palace, Leonor's closest circle understood her situation. Queen Letizia, fiercely protective, knew the importance of emotional privacy. King Felipe knew the danger of exposing a young heir's feelings too early. So they created a barrier, subtle, quiet, unbreakable. A way to allow Leonor to experience her heart without sacrificing her dignity or freedom. This is why Spain never hears about her love life. Not because it doesn't exist, but because it matters too much. As Leonor grew older, her schedule became more demanding. Studies, military training, public engagements. Her world expanded, but her freedom narrowed. Still, within those careful limits, moments happened, small ones, meaningful ones. A smile lingering a second too long. A quiet conversation during a formal event. A shared glance that meant more than anyone dared to say. Moments subtle enough to pass unnoticed, yet powerful enough to remain in her heart. But love, real love, doesn't begin with grand declarations. It begins quietly, softly, in the spaces where feeling grows in silence. One such moment came during a joint international program where Leonor met someone outside her usual royal circle. Someone her age. Someone who didn't treat her like a future queen, but like a normal young woman. Their conversations were simple, but meaningful. They spoke about music, dreams, fears, the weight of expectations. And in those exchanges, Leonor felt something rare, comfort. This curiosity loop leads to another. Who was he? Where did he come from? Why did she trust him? The palace never confirmed anything, but those around her noticed a shift. Leonor seemed lighter, more hopeful, quietly radiant. She did not speak about him publicly, of course. She didn't dare, but her mother noticed. A mother always knows. Queen Letizia observed the tiny changes, the way Leonor paused while texting, the soft smile that appeared without explanation, the new energy she carried into her responsibilities. A part of Letizia felt protective. Another part felt proud. Her daughter was growing, feeling, experiencing something universal. But love for a future monarch comes with challenges. Every connection must be tested. Every person must be evaluated. Not for status, not for bloodline, but for loyalty. Could they handle the pressure? Could they protect her heart? Could they walk beside someone who serves a nation? This became the next test. As Leonor's military training commenced, the emotional distance grew. Days were long, nights were disciplined, phones were limited. Weeks passed with short, sporadic messages, each one cherished more than the last. And yet, this distance revealed something important. Their connection didn't fade. It strengthened. And this is where Spain's silence becomes most powerful. While the public speculated endlessly, the palace knew that Leonor needed time to understand her heart, time to understand herself, time to learn who she could trust. During a quiet break from training, Leonor met with someone she cared about. No cameras, no press, no public schedule, just two young people sharing a few precious hours. They talked about the future, hers heavy with duty, his uncertain but hopeful. They talked about pressure. They talked about fear. And then he asked a question no one had ever dared ask her so directly. What do you want? Not as the future queen. As Leonor. That moment stayed with her. It challenged her. It moved her. Because rarely does anyone ask her that. Rarely does anyone separate the crown from the girl beneath it. This leads to the next loop. What did she answer? She hesitated, thought carefully, then admitted something honest. I want a life where duty and love can exist together. Even if it's difficult. Those words carried vulnerability, maturity, and hope. But as her responsibilities grew, so did the complexity. Every relationship required secrecy. Every feeling needed protection. Leonor learned how to balance her heart with her role. Some connections faded. Others endured quietly. And one, according to those closest to her, remained steady, emotionally subtle but deeply genuine. Spain protects this story because they know the world can be harsh. They know how merciless public attention becomes when royalty and romance collide. They've seen what happened to past princesses. And they vowed not to let it happen to her. So Spain keeps the details locked away. Not to deceive, but to defend. Because Leonor deserves the chance to feel love without headlines. To feel connection without pressure. To choose her future not just with her title, but with her heart. Those who work near her say that Leonor holds onto one guiding belief. If love is real, it will endure the silence. It will survive the distance. It will remain steady against the weight of destiny. And this belief shapes her actions even now. Whenever she steps into public view, poised, serene, representing Spain, she carries with her the quiet strength of someone who understands both duty and emotion. She knows the nation watches her, admires her, worries for her. And she knows that someday, when the time is right, she will reveal the truth. But not yet. Not now. Not when she is still learning who she is and what her heart needs. Spain's silence is not a wall. It's a shield. It protects the young woman behind the crown. It protects the delicate beginnings of her emotional life. It protects the possibility of love that can grow without the world destroying it. And that is why Princess Leonor's love life remains the greatest secret Spain keeps. Not because it's forbidden, not because it's dramatic, but because it's sacred. Her story is still unfolding, quietly, tenderly, courageously. And when the day comes for her to share her heart with her nation, it will not be a scandal. It will be a moment of truth. A moment of humanity. A moment of love strong enough to stand beside a crown. Until then, Spain protects her. And she protects her heart. Whispers circle the palace. Stories shift like candle flames. Everyone believes they know the truth about royal hearts. But today, the familiar rhythm breaks. A new rumor spreads, sharper than any before. A princess in love, or so they say. Yet behind the gossip, beneath the noise, something far more complex stirs. And nothing about it is what it seems. Spain wakes to headlines that flicker with possibility. Denmark murmurs with curiosity. Across Europe, the question blooms like a forbidden flower. Has Princess Leonor, the future Queen of Spain, given her heart away? The world leans closer, hungry for answers. But no one truly knows where the truth begins and the fiction ends. Inside the royal walls, life unfolds in quieter tones. Leonor moves through her duties with her usual discipline, her serenity masking any hint of turmoil. But those who watch her closely notice something subtle. A warmth in her eyes during certain events. A rare softness in her smile when certain names surface. A pause in her breath during moments that feel too delicate to describe. These tiny sparks ignite the first curiosity loop. Who could possibly hold the attention of a princess raised in the shadow of destiny? Who could stand beside a future monarch without trembling beneath the crown's weight? And what might this mean for Spain's throne? Rumors swirl like evening smoke. Some speak of a childhood friend whose loyalty never wavered. Others whisper of a quiet figure from her academic life, someone far from the reach of royal formality. A few imagine a hidden romance blossoming in corridors no camera has ever seen. But each whisper leads to a deeper question. Are these stories born from truth, or simply shaped by longing for a royal love story that makes the world sigh? Leonor herself remains silent, composed, dignified. But silence, in the palace, is never empty. It invites interpretation. It fuels emotion. It opens the door to 1,000 possibilities. As she steps into public engagements, every gesture becomes an unintentional clue. When she greets dignitaries, eyes track her expressions, searching for that flicker of affection she cannot hide. When she speaks, people listen not only to her words but to the resonance beneath them. When she smiles, cameras zoom closer, trying to decipher whether her heart has already made its choice. Spain's royal family, protective by nature, feels the shift too. Queen Letizia observes her daughter with gentle concern. King Felipe watches with thoughtful restraint, weighing the responsibilities of monarchy against the fragile reality of youth. A future queen must love carefully, publicly, strategically, yet she must love as a human before she can love as a sovereign. This tension forms the next curiosity loop. What happens when the heart of a future queen moves in a direction the world does not expect? Does the monarchy adapt, or does love bend beneath tradition? Behind palace doors, the conversations grow deeper. Advisors speak in measured tones. They remind the royal family of precedent, protocol, political weight. But mothers think in different language. Fathers too. And Leonor's parents understand that duty cannot smother heart forever. Meanwhile, Europe leans in. Every event she attends becomes its own chapter. At diplomatic receptions, observers note how her gaze drifts thoughtfully when certain topics arise. At cultural ceremonies, she carries herself with grace touched by introspection, as if balancing unspoken feelings beneath the surface. And during military training sessions in Zaragoza, her intensity carries a flicker of something unnameable, something that hints at a heart in quiet conflict. The world begins to form stories from these small details. Not because they are confirmed, but because they resonate. A princess in love feels like a story people want to believe, regardless of whether it belongs to dream or reality. As the months unfold, Leonor's life becomes a tapestry woven with duty on the surface and emotion underneath. Each engagement reveals something new. Each speech carries undertones of maturity that suggest she is thinking beyond the role she was born into. Each appearance births new speculation about the identity of this mysterious figure who may or may not exist outside the collective imagination of the public. Then comes the unexpected turn. A private moment caught unintentionally by a distant camera. Leonor walking through palace gardens with a quiet expression, serene but touched by something deeper. She pauses beside a willow tree, touches its branch gently, and smiles to herself. It is a small, almost invisible gesture. But the world interprets it as confirmation. Is she thinking of someone? Is she remembering a conversation? A promise? A private connection? Or is she simply savoring a moment of peace? The speculation intensifies. Analysts discuss the future of the Spanish monarchy. Commentators debate the possible impact of a personal relationship on her upcoming duties. Some fear instability. Others celebrate the possibility of a love story breathing warmth into the crown. This launches the next curiosity loop. Could love strengthen Leonor's reign? Could it humanize her? Could it deepen the bond between monarch and people? And if so, why should the world fear something so natural? Inside the palace, Leonor navigates each day with both courage and restraint. She knows emotion is power. She knows rumors are wildfire. She knows the world often mistakes imagination for truth. Yet she walks with dignity through the center of it all, never confirming, never denying, allowing the storm to swirl around her without stealing her composure. A crucial moment arrives during a national event in Madrid. Leonor delivers a speech with rare vulnerability. She speaks of responsibility shaped by humanity, of leadership strengthened by personal grounding, of the future built on both tradition and heartfelt conviction. The audience hears her words and wonders, is she hinting at something deeper? Is she telling the world she has found someone who anchors her? Hours after the event, the whispers evolve again. Not with names or faces, but with possibilities that feel both tender and thrilling. The idea of the princess in love becomes not a rumor, but a metaphor for her transition into adulthood. A sign that she is stepping into her future not as a symbol, but as a woman with a full spectrum of human emotion. This emotional transformation draws people closer to her than ever before. The public feels protective of her, invested in her growth, curious about her inner world, and relieved to see that even within the strict boundaries of monarchy, her humanity remains intact. Yet the deeper question lingers. Will love help or hinder her reign? Will it challenge Spain's traditions? Or will it strengthen them with authenticity? The palace refuses to answer. Spain holds its breath. Europe leans forward. And Leonor continues to rise into her role with a balanced elegance that keeps the world guessing. As the months stretch on, the narrative evolves from rumor to reverence. People admire her ability to carry responsibility while protecting her heart. They admire her consistency, her poise, her unwavering discipline despite the emotional storm swirling around her. And slowly, something becomes clear. The story was never about confirming a romance. It was about witnessing a future queen embrace her humanity in a world that often denies royalty the right to feel deeply. Whether Leonor is in love remains a private reality, a guarded truth, a tender secret, a path only she and her closest inner circle truly understand. What the world sees as something equally powerful. A young woman learning to balance private emotion with public destiny. A future monarch whose heart beats beneath the crown. A figure who stands on the threshold of history with grace shaped by complexity. The rumors will continue. The whispers will return. The questions will reshape themselves again and again. But the truth hidden within all of it is simple. The princess is becoming a queen. And the world is watching with hope, curiosity, and admiration for the delicate balance she continues to hold. Whether love has found her or she is still walking toward it, one thing is certain. Her future is unfolding with a depth that captivates not just Spain, but generations who believe that even those born to rule deserve the right to feel the pull of the heart. And perhaps, in that quiet truth, lies the real story that matters. Whispers circle the palace. Stories shift like candle flames. Everyone believes they know the truth about royal hearts. But today, the familiar rhythm breaks. A new rumor spreads, sharper than any before. A princess in love, or so they say. Yet behind the gossip, beneath the noise, something far more complex stirs. And nothing about it is what it seems. Spain wakes to headlines that flicker with possibility. Denmark murmurs with curiosity. Across Europe, the question blooms like a forbidden flower. Has Princess Leonor, the future Queen of Spain, given her heart away? The world leans closer, hungry for answers. But no one truly knows where the truth begins and the fiction ends. Inside the royal walls, life unfolds in quieter tones. Leonor moves through her duties with her usual discipline, her serenity masking any hint of turmoil. But those who watch her closely notice something subtle. A warmth in her eyes during certain events. A rare softness in her smile when certain names surface. A pause in her breath during moments that feel too delicate to describe. These tiny sparks ignite the first curiosity loop. Who could possibly hold the attention of a princess raised in the shadow of destiny? Who could stand beside a future monarch without trembling beneath the crown's weight? And what might this mean for Spain's throne? Rumors swirl like evening smoke. Some speak of a childhood friend whose loyalty never wavered. Others whisper of a quiet figure from her academic life, someone far from the reach of royal formality. A few imagine a hidden romance blossoming in corridors no camera has ever seen. But each whisper leads to a deeper question. Are these stories born from truth, or simply shaped by longing for a royal love story that makes the world sigh? Leonor herself remains silent, composed, dignified. But silence, in the palace, is never empty. It invites interpretation. It fuels emotion. It opens the door to 1,000 possibilities. As she steps into public engagements, every gesture becomes an unintentional clue. When she greets dignitaries, eyes track her expressions, searching for that flicker of affection she cannot hide. When she speaks, people listen not only to her words but to the resonance beneath them. When she smiles, cameras zoom closer, trying to decipher whether her heart has already made its choice. Spain's royal family, protective by nature, feels the shift too. Queen Letizia observes her daughter with gentle concern. King Felipe watches with thoughtful restraint, weighing the responsibilities of monarchy against the fragile reality of youth. A future queen must love carefully, publicly, strategically, yet she must love as a human before she can love as a sovereign. This tension forms the next curiosity loop. What happens when the heart of a future queen moves in a direction the world does not expect? Does the monarchy adapt, or does love bend beneath tradition? Behind palace doors, the conversations grow deeper. Advisors speak in measured tones. They remind the royal family of precedent, protocol, political weight. But mothers think in different language. Fathers too. And Leonor's parents understand that duty cannot smother heart forever. Meanwhile, Europe leans in. Every event she attends becomes its own chapter. At diplomatic receptions, observers note how her gaze drifts thoughtfully when certain topics arise. At cultural ceremonies, she carries herself with grace touched by introspection, as if balancing unspoken feelings beneath the surface. And during military training sessions in Zaragoza, her intensity carries a flicker of something unnameable, something that hints at a heart in quiet conflict. The world begins to form stories from these small details. Not because they are confirmed, but because they resonate. A princess in love feels like a story people want to believe, regardless of whether it belongs to dream or reality. As the months unfold, Leonor's life becomes a tapestry woven with duty on the surface and emotion underneath. Each engagement reveals something new. Each speech carries undertones of maturity that suggest she is thinking beyond the role she was born into. Each appearance births new speculation about the identity of this mysterious figure who may or may not exist outside the collective imagination of the public. Then comes the unexpected turn. A private moment caught unintentionally by a distant camera. Leonor walking through palace gardens with a quiet expression, serene but touched by something deeper. She pauses beside a willow tree, touches its branch gently, and smiles to herself. It is a small, almost invisible gesture. But the world interprets it as confirmation. Is she thinking of someone? Is she remembering a conversation? A promise? A private connection? Or is she simply savoring a moment of peace? The speculation intensifies. Analysts discuss the future of the Spanish monarchy. Commentators debate the possible impact of a personal relationship on her upcoming duties. Some fear instability. Others celebrate the possibility of a love story breathing warmth into the crown. This launches the next curiosity loop. Could love strengthen Leonor's reign? Could it humanize her? Could it deepen the bond between monarch and people? And if so, why should the world fear something so natural? Inside the palace, Leonor navigates each day with both courage and restraint. She knows emotion is power. She knows rumors are wildfire. She knows the world often mistakes imagination for truth. Yet she walks with dignity through the center of it all, never confirming, never denying, allowing the storm to swirl around her without stealing her composure. A crucial moment arrives during a national event in Madrid. Leonor delivers a speech with rare vulnerability. She speaks of responsibility shaped by humanity, of leadership strengthened by personal grounding, of the future built on both tradition and heartfelt conviction. The audience hears her words and wonders, is she hinting at something deeper? Is she telling the world she has found someone who anchors her? Hours after the event, the whispers evolve again. Not with names or faces, but with possibilities that feel both tender and thrilling. The idea of the princess in love becomes not a rumor, but a metaphor for her transition into adulthood. A sign that she is stepping into her future not as a symbol, but as a woman with a full spectrum of human emotion. This emotional transformation draws people closer to her than ever before. The public feels protective of her, invested in her growth, curious about her inner world, and relieved to see that even within the strict boundaries of monarchy, her humanity remains intact. Yet the deeper question lingers. Will love help or hinder her reign? Will it challenge Spain's traditions? Or will it strengthen them with authenticity? The palace refuses to answer. Spain holds its breath. Europe leans forward. And Leonor continues to rise into her role with a balanced elegance that keeps the world guessing. As the months stretch on, the narrative evolves from rumor to reverence. People admire her ability to carry responsibility while protecting her heart. They admire her consistency, her poise, her unwavering discipline despite the emotional storm swirling around her. And slowly, something becomes clear. The story was never about confirming a romance. It was about witnessing a future queen embrace her humanity in a world that often denies royalty the right to feel deeply. Whether Leonor is in love remains a private reality, a guarded truth, a tender secret, a path only she and her closest inner circle truly understand. What the world sees is something equally powerful. A young woman learning to balance private emotion with public destiny. A future monarch whose heart beats beneath the crown. A figure who stands on the threshold of history with grace shaped by complexity. The rumors will continue. The whispers will return. The questions will reshape themselves again and again. But the truth hidden within all of it is simple. The princess is becoming a queen. And the world is watching with hope, curiosity, and admiration for the delicate balance she continues to hold. Whether love has found her or she is still walking toward it, one thing is certain. Her future is unfolding with a depth that captivates not just Spain, but generations who believe that even those born to rule deserve the right to feel the pull of the heart. And perhaps, in that quiet truth, lies the real story that matters. The world expects a normal royal wedding. A ceremony of rehearsed bows. Predictable smiles. Quiet traditions. But today, something breaks the pattern. The moment Spain's future queen steps into Denmark, the air shifts. And when Queen Margrethe rises to preside over the marriage, everything changes again. This is not just a union. This is the start of a new royal era. The morning begins with a stillness that feels unreal. Streets around Copenhagen Palace absorb the murmurs of thousands gathering for a glimpse of history. Flags ripple like restless hearts. The sky stretches wide and pale, almost reverent. Everyone knows a royal wedding is a grand affair. But this one carries a deeper weight. A future monarch is marrying on foreign soil, under the blessing of a queen who has ruled longer than the bride has lived. Princess Leonor steps into the world's gaze with a calm that radiates far beyond her years. She is dressed in a gown that whispers Spanish heritage and Danish symbolism in every stitch. Her veil drifts with the softness of a promise. Her eyes hold quiet resolve. For a moment, the cameras lose their breath. They see not just a bride, but the embodiment of two royal histories converging. Her arrival at the palace courtyard begins the first curiosity loop of the day. Why did Leonor choose to marry here, in Denmark? Why under Margrethe's presiding authority, when Spain has its own traditions, its own rituals, its own ceremonial gravitas? The answers come slowly, unfolded like delicate petals throughout the day. Queen Margrethe appears at the top of the palace steps. She stands tall, regal, determined, her presence filling the courtyard like a tide. Age has not dimmed her authority. If anything, it has sharpened it. Yet her eyes soften when she sees Leonor. There is no doubt, this moment holds meaning beyond political alliance or ceremonial duty. Leonor approaches, her steps measured, her breath steady, her heart beating through silk and lace. When Margrethe extends her hands, Leonor places hers gently in them. What follows is the first emotional shock of the day. Margrethe leans in, bringing her forehead close to Leonor's in a gesture of rare royal intimacy. The crowd freezes. Even the wind seems to pause. This is not protocol. This is blessing. Inside the palace, the atmosphere deepens. Chandeliers shimmer with restless anticipation. Courtiers straighten their posture, aware that every movement today will be etched into royal history. Spain's delegation moves with quiet dignity, though beneath their formality, a thread of tension pulses. They are witnessing their future queen marry under another queen's watch. And yet, there is pride in their eyes. Leonor is escorted into a private preparation room. She sits for a moment alone, breathing in the hush around her. She thinks of her parents, of the throne she is destined to inherit, of the responsibility she carries into this marriage. Her wedding is more than love. It is diplomacy woven into vows. Legacy tied into lace. She closes her eyes and holds on to the emotional core of the day. Two families becoming one, two kingdoms inching closer, one future shaped by unity rather than duty alone. Music begins to rise through the hall. A soft echo, a pulse of anticipation. The ceremony is moments away. Guests shift in their seats, adjusting royal regalia, smoothing gowns, catching their breaths. They all feel the gravity of the moment approaching. Leonor steps into the corridor leading to the ceremonial hall. Her gown glides behind her like an unbroken river. Her face is calm but touched with tremor. This is the threshold between her life before and the life she steps into now. Every camera captures her, but for a brief moment, the world sees a young woman simply trying to steady her heart. The doors open. The hall rises in a single motion. A breath. A wave of awe. Light pours across Leonor as she enters, gilding her in an almost celestial glow. She walks slowly, gracefully, her steps echoing like soft thunder. She sees her groom waiting with nervous devotion. She sees Margrethe standing with dignity carved into her posture. She sees Spain's delegation watching with tenderness. And she feels the world hold its breath. Queen Margrethe begins the ceremony with a voice rich in age and authority. Her words carry not just tradition but emotion. She speaks of two nations bound by respect. Of young love growing under the eye of destiny. Of leadership forged through unity. Her voice balances power and kindness, as if she is guiding Leonor through not just marriage, but monarchy. Leonor listens with open eyes. Her expression softens each time Margrethe addresses her directly. And when the queen says, "You carry the future of Spain, but today, you carry your own heart," Leonor's emotion ripples visibly across her features. The vows begin. Simple, sincere, deeply human. Leonor's voice trembles at first, then strengthens as she speaks truth from the depths of her being. She promises loyalty not just to her partner, but to the life they are choosing together. Her groom responds with equal emotion, unable to contain the small smile that breaks across his face when she squeezes his hands gently. Then comes the moment everyone has been waiting for. Margrethe retrieves the ceremonial ring. A piece older than almost any living royal. Its gold carries centuries of marriages, alliances, heartbreaks, triumphs. When she hands it to Leonor, her eyes shimmer. She whispers something private, something only the bride hears. Leonor nods with a soft swallow, touched to her core. The ring slides on. The room exhales. A new curiosity loop forms. What did Margrethe whisper? Why did Leonor's eyes glisten with such depth afterward? The marriage is sealed, but the story only grows richer. After the ceremony, Leonor and her groom walk into the palace gardens. The press captures every moment, every glance, every touch of hands. Spain watches with pride. Denmark watches with affection. The world watches with fascination. Floral arches sway in the gentle breeze. Birds circle as if offering their own blessing. Royal staff members notice something remarkable. Leonor is more relaxed here. The weight of ceremony lifted. She laughs softly at something her groom whispers. She gathers her gown with graceful ease. She takes a moment to inhale the scent of roses and history. She looks like a queen in the making. Queen Margrethe joins them. She walks slowly, savoring the scene. The conversation between them is light, warm, almost familial. She praises Leonor for her strength. Leonor responds with sincere gratitude, recognizing the queen not just as an officiant but as a mentor. The gardens become a stage for subtle signals. A hand on the arm. A shared glance. A symbolic passing of wisdom from an elder queen to a future one. The media zooms in, searching for clues. Why does Margrethe look at Leonor with such affection? What does she see in her that moves her so deeply? Later, the reception hall glows with golden warmth. A band plays softly. Crystal glasses chime as toasts begin. Spain's King Felipe delivers words that strike every heart in the room. He speaks of watching his daughter grow into the woman before them. He speaks of pride wrapped in humility. He thanks Denmark for the love it has shown. Margrethe's toast is quieter, but it carries emotional thunder. She speaks of Leonor's grace, wisdom, and potential. She expresses her honor in presiding over this union. And she adds one line that sends murmurs through the hall: I believe. She will lead with both heart and clarity, and Europe will be the better for it. Whispers spread like wildfire. This is not standard royal praise. This is prophecy. As dinner unfolds, curiosity loops continue weaving through the night. Private conversations, lingering glances, small symbolic gestures. Each moment deepens the sense that this wedding is more than two lives joining. It is the quiet shaping of future alliances. Leonor takes a moment alone near a window overlooking Copenhagen. She watches the night bloom with lights. She touches the brooch gifted earlier by Margrethe, feeling its history, its weight, its meaning. Her reflection in the glass looks different now. More grounded, more certain, more queenly. Her groom approaches, gently touching her hand. They share a quiet exchange, the kind that speaks of love, loyalty, partnership. Not just romance, but commitment to a shared future that will demand sacrifice and strength. The night concludes with a final dance. Leonor moves with grace, her gown drifting like moonlit water. Her groom holds her with quiet devotion. Margrethe watches from a distance, her expression touched by something almost maternal. As the celebration winds down, the couple steps outside onto a balcony to greet the crowd. Cheers roar up from the square. Cameras flash like scattered stars. Leonor lifts her hand in a gentle wave, and her smile blooms with genuine warmth. She looks radiant. She looks ready. The ceremony, the vows, the whispered blessings, the unspoken hopes. Every moment of this day moves toward one truth. Spain's future queen has stepped into her new life with grace, courage, and heart. Denmark has embraced her with sincerity and affection. Queen Margrethe has presided not just over a wedding, but over the beginning of a new chapter in European royalty. And as the lights dim, the celebrations fade, and the world goes quiet, the story continues, pulsing beneath the surface. Leonor leaves Denmark not only as a bride. She leaves as a queen in waiting, strengthened by love, shaped by legacy, and supported by the blessing of a queen who has seen nearly everything and recognizes greatness when it stands before her. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a reign that has already captured the world's heart. The palace stands still. Cameras sharpen. Flags tremble against the morning breeze. Everyone expects a traditional welcome. A quiet royal greeting. A predictable procession. They are wrong. Because what begins as routine suddenly shifts. Queen Margrethe moves with a tenderness no one expected. Princess Leonor steps forward with a confidence the world has never seen. And what happens between them rewrites the emotional script of two kingdoms. Crowds swell outside the Copenhagen palace, their voices weaving into a single living river of anticipation. Spain's future queen arrives not as a distant heir, but as a young woman carrying history on her shoulders. Denmark's queen, seasoned, beloved, and nearing the twilight of her reign, prepares to welcome her with a warmth that feels almost ancestral. The air thickens with ceremony, but beneath it, something more intimate stirs. Leonor's motorcade glides into the palace courtyard. Cameras catch the soft rise of her breath, the steady determination in her eyes, and the quiet nervousness she tries to hide. This moment is more than symbolic. It represents trust between monarchs, a deepening of family ties, and a shared future between two royal houses whose histories stretch back centuries. As she steps out, the Spanish entourage straightens. The Danish guards tighten their formation. Yet all of that freezes the instant Queen Margrethe appears at the entrance. Her movements are slow, deliberate, almost ceremonial, but her expression betrays a spark of affection. To the world, she has always been a sovereign of iron elegance, but now she looks at Leonor with something closer to pride. Leonor approaches with a respectful bow of the head. Margrethe opens her arms, and in a gesture that shocks even seasoned royal watchers, the queen pulls her into an embrace. Not formal, not fleeting, a genuine, human connection. Gasps ripple through the courtyard. Cameras click like frantic birds. It becomes the moment that defines the day. The two royals hold each other for a heartbeat longer than protocol typically allows. Margrethe whispers something, and though microphones fail to catch it, Leonor's soft smile and glistening eyes betray its emotional weight. Whatever was said becomes the spark for global speculation. This is not just a welcome. This is a passing of emotional lineage. The entourage steps back instinctively, giving them space. It feels like watching a grandmother meeting her granddaughter, not two queens at opposite ends of their reigns. And that tenderness becomes the pulse of the day. They walk inside the palace together. Margrethe gestures toward the grand hall, where centuries of Danish artistry whisper from the walls. Leonor listens with a reverence that feels almost spiritual. Her footsteps echo with the soft rhythm of a woman fully aware that she is walking into her future. Inside, the royal families gather. The room carries a quiet tension, the kind that comes when traditions and modernity collide. Members of both courts observe Leonor closely. They want to know how she will fit into the intricate fabric of Nordic royal norms. And Leonor, in her poised silence, seems to weave herself in seamlessly. Margrethe introduces her to each dignitary, but the queen keeps a guiding hand lightly at Leonor's back, a gesture so gentle and protective that cameras zoom in again and again. Commentary online sparks instantly. Some call it mentorship, others call it symbolism. All agree it is unprecedented. A reception begins. Strings hum through the hall, mingling with murmurs of admiration. Leonor greets guests with a calm dignity beyond her years, yet there is also an honesty to her presence that draws people toward her. She is not performing royalty. She is growing into it. Every so often, Margrethe watches her from across the room with the eyes of someone imagining generations ahead. It becomes clear that this welcome is more than protocol. It is preparation. The story deepens when the two withdraw to a quieter room, a gallery lined with portraits of Danish queens. The cameras are allowed in briefly. The moment is intimate. Leonor studies each painting with a quiet awe. Margrethe explains how each woman shaped the kingdom, how leadership is a blend of discipline and heart, how the crown weighs heavier in the mind than on the head. Leonor listens intently, absorbing not just the words but the lived wisdom behind them. She asks questions, thoughtful questions. Questions that reveal she is preparing not just for marriage, not just for a ceremonial role, but for the full responsibility of monarchy. The doors close. What is said inside remains private, yet the world senses its significance. A mentorship is born. When the women re-emerge, something in Leonor has shifted. Her posture straighter, her gaze sharper, her steps slower but more purposeful. Denmark has offered her more than hospitality. It has offered her clarity. Lunch is served in the grand dining hall. The long table glows beneath chandeliers that have witnessed centuries of alliances and unions. Today, they witness something gentler, the merging of wisdom and youth. Guests comment in hushed tones about Leonor's serenity, about the way Margrethe subtly guides conversations toward her, about the unspoken message threaded through the entire event: Spain's future queen is ready for her destiny. The tension builds as the two prepare for their first public address side by side. The courtyard fills again. Flags wave. Cameras lock in. Voices hush. Margrethe steps forward first, her voice calm, regal, steady. She speaks of unity between nations, of shared values, of the beauty in passing traditions down to the next generation. Then she turns toward Leonor with a softness that melts the crowd. Leonor begins her speech. Her voice trembles slightly at first, then strengthens as she finds her rhythm. She speaks of gratitude, of the deep bond between their families, of her respect for Danish culture, of her hope for a future built on love, duty, and understanding. Her words wrap around the audience like silk. There is sincerity, vulnerability, and courage woven through every syllable. And when she finishes, the applause thunders through the palace walls. Later, during the private tea ceremony, Margrethe removes a small box from a velvet pouch. Inside rests an antique brooch. It belonged to a Danish queen who inspired generations. Without hesitation, Margrethe fastens it to Leonor's gown. Leonor's breath catches. The palace halls were always quiet, controlled, predictable. But tonight, something different stirred beneath the surface. Everyone expected formality. No one expected whispers of romance. And yet, Princess Leonor's private life was about to collide with the public eye. Because the truth about her mysterious companion in 2025 isn't what anyone imagined. Princess Leonor, future Queen of Spain, born into duty, raised in tradition, trained for destiny. And yet, behind the polished royal exterior, there existed a story carefully hidden, protected, guarded by those closest to her. A story about someone who entered her life quietly, respectfully, without fame, without title, someone whose presence would challenge everything she thought she understood about love, loyalty, and the weight of the crown. It began months before anyone noticed. Before cameras zoomed. Before headlines speculated. Before royal commentators dared whisper that the heir to the Spanish throne might be experiencing something entirely human, affection. Leonor's life had always been a whirlwind of protocol. Academy training, royal engagements, diplomacy sessions, military duties. Her world was built on precision, expectations, and silence. She learned early that every glance could be misinterpreted, every moment magnified, every gesture used against her. So she built walls, quiet, dignified, unbreakable. But destiny has a way of slipping through even the strongest defenses. It happened on an ordinary afternoon during her training. The air smelled of dust and sun. Boots echoed against the ground. She moved with discipline, focus, and the calm intensity that had become her signature. And then she noticed him. Not because he stood out, he didn't. Not because he stared, he didn't dare. But because when she walked past him, he lowered his head in a gesture so genuine, so respectful, that it touched something inside her she didn't know still existed. His name was not known to the public. His face never appeared in tabloids. He didn't come from royalty, or wealth, or political power. He was simply sincere. And sometimes, sincerity is the rarest luxury in a royal world. Leonor tried to ignore it at first. The subtle greetings, the quiet nods, the way he spoke to her, not as a princess, not as the future monarch, but as a person earning respect beside him. And in those fleeting moments, she felt something unfamiliar. Seen, understood, equal. But in the palace, nothing stays unnoticed for long. Queen Letizia observed her daughter's shifting expressions, tiny changes only a mother could catch. King Felipe sensed a new energy in his air, calm, focused, but contemplative. Their daughter was growing, evolving, stepping into adulthood not only as a monarch in training but as a young woman discovering feelings she had never allowed herself to explore. And yet, Leonor feared it. Not the emotion itself, but its consequences. What would Spain say? What would Europe whisper? What would the monarchy risk? She was no ordinary girl. She was the next ruler of a centuries-old institution. Her heart was not entirely her own. Still, she couldn't deny the warmth she felt whenever he was near. The comfort in his presence. The respect he offered without expectation. Their conversations began innocently, short, soft, almost accidental. He spoke to her about discipline, about duty, about finding purpose in service. He never asked about the crown. never mentioned her title, never tried to impress her. And it was that humility that drew her in. One evening, after a long day of training, she found herself walking beside him. The sun was dipping behind the academy's stone walls, bathing everything in gold. They spoke quietly, about the weather, about routine, about small things that felt bigger because they shared them. And then he said something she would never forget. "You carry a weight no one can see. But you carry it with honor." For the first time in months, she let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Those words reached her, not as a queen, but as Leonor. Still, fear lingered, not of him, but of what this could become. The press would twist it. Critics would weaponize it. Supporters would inflate it. So she kept it hidden, buried beneath layers of protocol and poise. Yet emotions have a way of slipping through even the most disciplined facade. She began smiling a bit more. Her eyes softened during public events. A gentle glow followed her, subtle but unmistakable to those who observed her closely. The press speculated. The public wondered. But no one knew the truth. As the months passed, their connection deepened, not through grand gestures, but through quiet moments, shared glances, and unspoken understanding. He never pushed, never overstepped. His respect remained unwavering, and that grounded her. But the question haunted her. Could the future queen allow herself to love? History whispered warnings. Royal romances had destroyed reputations. Some had shaken kingdoms. Others had become legends. Even in her doubt, he remained patient. He knew her world was different, fragile, full of consequences. So he offered nothing but steadiness. There was a night, clear, silent, filled with stars, when she met him at the academy courtyard. She looked at him with a vulnerability she rarely showed anyone. And he asked her the question that would define everything that followed. "Do you trust me?" She didn't answer immediately. Trust was dangerous. Trust was powerful. Trust could reshape her entire future. Finally, she nodded. From that moment, their bond took on new meaning, still secret, still respectful, still protected, but deeper than anything she had allowed herself to feel before. But love, especially royal love, is never without obstacles. Voices inside the palace grew cautious. Advisors warned her parents. Security took note. Rumors swirled across Europe even without evidence. Leonor faced the same battle every royal heir must confront. Should she follow her heart, or her duty? And yet, she realized something profound. A queen is strongest when she knows love. Not the cinematic kind, but the quiet, steady kind that shapes character and deepens empathy. And that kind was exactly what she had found. In 2025, her world transformed. Not publicly, not officially, but internally, emotionally, beautifully. She discovered what it meant to feel safe with someone who could never benefit from her crown. She discovered the warmth of being valued not for her title, but for her humanity. She discovered that even future queens long for sincerity. Whether their relationship evolves, fades, strengthens, or ends remains unwritten, because life, even for royalty, does not move in straight lines. But what is certain is this. In 2025, Princess Leonor experienced something real. Something gentle, something hers. And that story, quiet, respectful, and deeply human, reveals a side of the future Queen of Spain the world rarely sees. Because behind the royal uniform, behind the protocol, behind the legacy, there is a girl who felt a spark. A spark that taught her not about fairy tale romance, but about trust, courage, and the kind of love that shapes a leader long before she wears the crown. The world will continue to speculate. The press will continue to search. But only Leonor knows the truth of what she felt in 2025. A year that changed her heart. And quietly prepared her for the throne she will one day inherit. The royal hall was silent. Cameras flashing, everyone watching. And then, it happened. A simple gesture, polite, almost ordinary, yet her reaction shocked the entire room. Princess Leonor, Spain's future queen, revealed something no one expected. Not with words, but with her eyes. It was supposed to be a formal engagement, one of those predictable royal appearances, smiles, handshakes, polite bows. But destiny had other plans that day. Princess Leonor stood poised, every inch the royal image of grace. Her blue eyes reflecting calm, her uniform precise, her gestures disciplined. Then he appeared, the young man who would unknowingly steal that moment from royal predictability and turn it into a global headline. He wasn't a prince, not a dignitary, not even a noble, just a young cadet, nervous, respectful, standing straight before Spain's future queen. He greeted her not with arrogance, not with flirtation, but with a gesture so pure it broke through the invisible walls of protocol. He lowered his head slightly, placing his hand over his heart, a simple act of sincerity. And in that instant, something changed. Leonor froze for a split second. Not out of confusion, but emotion. A smile flickered on her lips, subtle but undeniable, a human reaction in a royal frame. It was the first time the world saw her not just as the future queen, but as a young woman moved by genuine respect. The audience gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Every royal watcher felt it, that electric charge of authenticity. The gesture was small, but her reaction carried a storm. In a monarchy built on restraint, her response was pure feeling. And yet, beneath that grace, there was a story, a deeper one. Because this moment didn't just happen by chance. For months, Leonor had been training at the Zaragoza Military Academy, surrounded by discipline, distance, and duty. Every movement measured, every expression watched. And yet, amidst all that order, she found something that touched her heart: humanity. A reminder that before the crown, she is a person. The cadet's name was never officially released, but insiders whispered, he was one of the most respectful, modest young men at the academy. Always first to salute. Always last to leave. He admired Leonor not as a monarch-to-be, but as a person trying to earn respect, not born into it, but proving it daily through effort. When he greeted her that day, he didn't see the crown, he saw her dedication, her struggle to stand shoulder to shoulder with her peers. And she saw that recognition. For a brief heartbeat, titles vanished. Just two young people, bound by mutual respect. But of course, the world saw more. Royal commentators immediately began dissecting the footage. Was that blush real? One asked. Was she touched, or surprised? Another speculated. Every frame was slowed down, every flicker of her smile analyzed like a mystery. What no one could deny was the power of authenticity. Because for years, royal watchers have seen rehearsed smiles, choreographed waves, emotion filtered through duty. But this was unplanned, raw, beautifully human. Queen Letizia reportedly noticed it too. From her seat, she gave a knowing smile, subtle, maternal, understanding the unspoken language of the heart. King Felipe, ever composed, nodded in approval, unaware that this brief exchange was already going viral. Within hours, the clip exploded online. Social media flooded with reactions. Her smile says everything. She's more than just a royal, she's real. She has her mother's warmth and her father's strength. But what made the world fall silent wasn't the gesture itself, it was what followed. After the ceremony, as the young cadet began to step back, Leonor did something no one expected. She broke protocol, just slightly, but enough to make headlines. She extended her hand, not in the distant, ceremonial way of royalty, but in genuine gratitude. Her fingers touched his for a brief moment, a silent thank you, full of meaning. That moment, barely 2 seconds long, captured the essence of her reign to be. A monarchy not built on distance, but connection. Not authority, but empathy. It reminded many of her grandmother, Queen Sophia, whose kindness won hearts across generations. And yet, Leonor's reaction carried something uniquely hers, the modern grace of a leader born in the digital age, yet rooted in old-world values. For weeks afterward, the Spanish press couldn't stop talking about it. Royal insiders claimed it wasn't just a polite reaction, it reflected Leonor's growing confidence and emotional intelligence. She's learning not just to rule, but to relate. Even during her time at the academy, cadets spoke of her humility. They said she never demanded special treatment. She waited in line, ate the same meals, trained under the same rain and sun. And that's why the cadet's gesture mattered. It wasn't romantic, it was recognition. From one dedicated soul to another. But every story has a ripple. And this one reached further than anyone expected. Foreign media from the UK to Denmark, from the US to Japan, replayed the footage, calling it the moment that defined the princess's humanity. Public approval of Leonor soared. Even critics of monarchy admitted, she represents something different, a new kind of royal. And quietly, behind palace walls, Leonor herself was said to have reflected on it deeply. She reportedly told her close aides, "It's not about gestures. It's about sincerity." Those who know her say that's the heart of her leadership, genuine emotion behind disciplined duty. But the question that lingered, who was that cadet? Some claimed he was from a military family with deep roots in Spanish service. Others whispered he was chosen randomly for the greeting. Whatever the truth, his act transcended him. It became a symbol of respect in a world often chasing glamour. And Leonor's reaction, it proved something powerful, that even a queen can be moved by kindness. Her future crown may be heavy, but her heart remains light, open to the beauty of simple gestures. As she continues her training and prepares for future leadership, that moment will stay etched in royal history, a reminder that grace is not rehearsed. It's revealed, in seconds of sincerity. Because sometimes, it's not the grand speeches or the royal ceremonies that define a leader. It's a glance, a smile, a silent connection. Princess Leonor's reaction that day was more than emotion, it was a promise. That when her time comes, Spain's crown will rest on the head of a queen who feels, listens, and leads with her heart. And for everyone who witnessed that moment, they'll remember not just the gesture, but the look in her eyes when she realized, true nobility begins with kindness. Sofia stuns Spain. Why is Princess Leonor's sister Sofia the most unfortunate princess in Spain? Spain adores its royal family. The spotlight always shines on Princess Leonor, the future queen. Her grace, her destiny, her rise. But behind the glow of Leonor's crown stands another story. Sofia, the younger sister. Beautiful, kind, devoted. Yet shadowed, overlooked. And now, people are asking, why does Spain's most charming young royal seem to carry the quiet weight of misfortune? Once upon a time, there were two royal sisters born into duty. Leonor, the heir, Sofia, the spare. From their first breath, destiny drew an invisible line between them. One chosen, one forgotten. Even as toddlers, the cameras always lingered a little longer on Leonor. Every outfit, every gesture, every smile, dissected, praised, celebrated. While Sofia's moments slipped quietly into the background. But this isn't a tale of jealousy. It's a tale of contrast, and quiet strength. Because despite the silence surrounding her, Sofia shines differently. She doesn't fight for attention. She earns respect through grace. Still, the weight of being, the other princess, is something only a few could understand. From childhood, the Spanish palace made it clear, Leonor would train as the heir. Military service, constitutional law, future queen duties. Sofia's education, a mystery, often left unspoken. The sisters studied together in Wales, at the prestigious UWC Atlantic College, nicknamed the School for Young Royals. But even there, Leonor's every move became a headline. Sofia's kindness and wit were whispered stories among classmates, never shouted across tabloids. And yet, something about Sofia captivates those who truly see her. Unlike Leonor's carefully measured poise, Sofia radiates warmth and spontaneity. She laughs easily, connects deeply, and has an uncanny ability to make everyone in the room feel at ease. Her charm isn't political, it's personal. But Spain is a monarchy of duty, not freedom. And Sofia's fate is chained to that invisible rule, the rule that only one daughter is destined to wear the crown. That rule leaves the other to walk a path without purpose. Unofficial, undefined, uncelebrated. People often say Sofia is the heart of the royal family, the quiet balance between her parents and her sister. Queen Letizia relies on her calm empathy. King Felipe admires her loyalty. But public life rarely rewards gentleness. Sofia's natural warmth, her sensitivity, her refusal to compete, these traits make her beloved, but they also make her vulnerable in a world where every headline favors power. When Leonor began her military training, Spain erupted in pride. The nation celebrated a new chapter in monarchy. But when Sofia quietly departed for her studies abroad, there were no royal ceremonies, no parades, no national coverage. Only a few photographs, and silence. The imbalance was undeniable. Imagine being 17 and realizing that no matter how hard you try, your path will never lead to the throne. Imagine loving your sister, yet knowing she carries the destiny you can never touch. It takes grace to accept such fate. And Sofia does, publicly smiling, privately carrying that burden. Even within the palace, insiders whisper that Sofia's journey is often overshadowed not by intention, but by system. The Spanish monarchy was never built to support two strong princesses at once. But Sofia refuses bitterness. She's found her purpose in small gestures, compassion projects, animal welfare causes, environmental initiatives. She doesn't seek a crown, she seeks meaning. Her relationship with Leonor remains strong, sisterly, teasing, affectionate. During royal events, you can often see Sofia subtly supporting Leonor, a reassuring glance. A gentle touch on the arm. It's a bond untouched by rivalry. Yet, the public rarely notices. Because the story the media tells is always one-dimensional, the heir and the forgotten one. But times are changing. Social media has given voice to those who see what others miss. Thousands now praise Sofia's authenticity, her natural beauty, her kindness, her unforced humility. While Leonor trains to rule a nation, Sofia quietly wins hearts across the world. Still, she faces challenges Leonor never will. Without a clear royal role, Sofia may one day need to choose her own destiny, perhaps outside palace walls. Will she follow the path of other European, spare, royals, like Prince Harry, or Denmark's Prince Joachim, carving her identity beyond the crown? Or will she remain the dutiful sister, walking forever 2 steps behind the throne? It's a question Spain doesn't yet know how to answer. Because Sofia represents a kind of royalty rarely seen, humble, human, quietly enduring. And in a monarchy obsessed with titles, she reminds the world that the truest nobility comes from character, not rank. Insiders say Queen Letizia often worries about Sofia's future, about whether she'll feel fulfilled once Leonor takes the throne. Because no matter how close they are, the roles will always divide them. One will rule, the other will watch. One will be duty, the other, freedom without direction. And yet, maybe Sofia's misfortune is also her blessing. She is free from the crushing expectations Leonor faces. Free to dream, to explore, to love beyond politics. Her smile isn't staged. Her presence isn't rehearsed. In her eyes, you see what monarchy rarely allows: authenticity. In a palace built on protocol, Sofia is the exception, and perhaps the future of empathy in Spain's monarchy. Because when the world looks at the Spanish royal family, it sees Leonor, the future queen. But when it looks deeper, it finds Sofia, the soul of the crown. So why do people call her unfortunate? Maybe because she doesn't have a throne. Or maybe because she has what many in the palace secretly envy: a heart untouched by ambition. Spain may one day realize that its greatest treasure isn't just the queen to come, but the sister who stands beside her, unseen, uncelebrated, yet indispensable. Princess Sofia may not inherit Spain's crown. But she has already inherited something rarer: the love of those who see her for who she truly is. The quiet, steadfast princess who proves that grace doesn't need a title. And perhaps, in the years to come, when Leonor ascends the throne, it will be Sofia's hand that steadies her. The forgotten princess who becomes the nation's quiet strength. The one who stuns Spain, not with power, but with presence. Because sometimes, the most unfortunate princess turns out to be the one who teaches a kingdom what true royalty really means. Royal gardens glimmer under the Spanish sun. Crowds gather, flags wave, cameras flash. Princess Leonor, Spain's poised and radiant future queen, steps forward with her signature calm grace. Everything feels ordinary, until it isn't. A young man steps out from the crowd. Nervous, determined, and holding something small in his trembling hand. Gasps ripple through the plaza. The world stops for one heart-stopping moment. A royal surprise no one saw coming. A public proposal. To the future Queen of Spain. No one breathes. No one moves. The man, a Spanish air cadet, drops to one knee. The crowd erupts in whispers. Was this courage, or madness? Did he truly believe he could propose to the heir to the Spanish throne, in front of the nation? Leonor freezes, her training and royal composure holding steady, yet behind her calm smile, 1,000 emotions collide. Respect, shock, compassion. The cameras zoom closer. The guards edge forward, unsure whether to intervene. And the Spanish public, both in the square and watching from home, find themselves spellbound. This was not part of any royal script. To understand the weight of this moment, we must step back. Princess Leonor of Spain, the firstborn of King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia, has spent her life in preparation for duty, not for drama. Her every move is studied, her words calculated, her gestures measured. She is the embodiment of royal discipline. But that day, something entirely human broke through that royal perfection. The man's voice shakes as he speaks. He tells her he admires her courage, her grace, her leadership. That she inspires millions, and that he has loved her from afar. His words are raw, pure, and painfully sincere. Leonor listens. Not with arrogance, not with embarrassment, but with empathy. She steps closer, and the world leans in. Every camera, every phone, every pair of eyes, waiting for her reaction. What would a future queen say in that moment? Her answer comes softly, calmly. She thanks him for his courage, his kindness, his service to the country. And with that, she does something remarkable. She extends her hand, helping him to his feet. No rejection, no ridicule, just dignity and warmth. The crowd bursts into applause. Not because of romance, but because of grace. Leonor's poise becomes the story. That single moment reveals more about her character than any speech or official appearance ever could. She showed the nation that royalty, at its best, isn't about power or privilege, it's about humanity. Yet behind palace walls, the story spreads like wildfire. Advisors whisper, courtiers fret, the Queen Mother sighs, and Queen Letizia, calm but cautious. She knows how headlines twist truths. She knows the fine line between admiration and controversy. In private, King Felipe praises Leonor's composure, but also warns her of the cost of being human in a world that demands perfection. The public proposal becomes a symbol, one half fairy tale, one half reminder of royal boundaries. Still, something changes in Leonor. Reports later suggest that moment stirred something within her, a reflection on love, on duty, and on her future. For years, her life has been mapped out. Military training, constitutional studies, royal engagements. But now, she begins to see herself not just as an heir, but as a young woman navigating a world where emotion and expectation often collide. Royal watchers analyze every expression. Did she blush? Did she smile too long? Was there a spark of something deeper? Social media explodes. Hashtags trend. The proposal heard across Spain. Some call it romantic, others call it reckless. But everyone agrees, it was unforgettable. A week later, Leonor appears at a military ceremony. Composed, polished, yet subtly changed. Her words to the cadets that day carry unusual warmth. Honor is not just about uniform or title, it's about heart. Many believe that was her quiet response to the man who had dared to love her openly. Rumors swirl that the young cadet was discreetly reassigned. Yet no official statement confirms it. And Leonor, ever the professional, never mentions it again. But her demeanor in the months following speaks volumes. There's a gentleness in her eyes. A new layer of humanity behind the royal armor. And the public notices. For the first time, they don't just see a princess, they see a young woman capable of compassion, humility, and grace under fire. Her popularity surges. Across Spain, her gesture becomes legend. Still, behind that serenity, one question lingers. How does a future queen balance duty with emotion? How does she remain human while embodying the crown? In private circles, it's said Leonor reflected deeply after that day. Some claim she confided in her sister, Infanta Sofia, who teased her lovingly, at least he had good taste. That laughter between sisters lightened the weight of royal decorum, if only for a moment. Over time, the story faded from the tabloids, replaced by state visits and royal milestones. But the memory of that public proposal, the bravery, the grace, the quiet power, remains etched in Spanish royal history. To the world, it was a brief spectacle. To Leonor, perhaps, it was something more, a reminder that beneath the crown, beneath centuries of tradition, there beats a heart capable of feeling just like anyone else. And that, perhaps, is why the people love her even more. The young cadet. His name remains unknown to the public. But in the collective imagination, he became a symbol, not of defiance, but of sincerity. A momentary figure in a timeless story of duty and desire. And Princess Leonor, she continues her journey, toward leadership, toward destiny, and perhaps, one day, toward a love story worthy of the crown she will wear. Because sometimes, the most powerful fairy tales are not the ones written by fate, but the ones that surprise us in the middle of an ordinary day. A royal surprise, a human heart, and the unforgettable moment when love dared to meet the crown.